What's up again, guys? Yo, it's me, Dovahkiin, and welcome back to my Baldur's Gate 3 series. And before we begin, be sure to hit on the subscribe button for more great videos. Alright, first, let me address the elephant in the room. This AI voice is the one I used for my Anno 2205 miniseries. And speaking of which, that ain't finished yet. There are still 4 episodes to go, and I just can't find the time to make them. But don't worry, I'm gonna work on him soon. Going back. However, even before that miniseries, I've used this AI voice whenever my actual voice gets fucked up. And guess what? Right now, it is. So, I just need to rest it for a few days, and I'm sure it will be back up and running for the next episode. Okay, to begin with, like episode 6, the bed scene with LZ, this is also kind of a special vid, shorter than my usual format. Anyway, in the previous episode, we decimated the overpowered Githyanki patrol near the mountain pass west of the Risen Road. And cheesed their commander's weapon, the legendary +3 silver sword of the astral plane. We also uncovered a few secrets of the mysterious artifact that Shadow is holding. It is of Gith origin, and since the beginning, the one shielding us from the voice of the Absolute. We even got a buff for it, but I think that was just for story purposes. By the way, that event is one of the triggers for a key feature in this game. And before we get introduced to that feature, let's follow on Shadow about the artifact.
Lady of Sorrows, guide us. Did you want something? Quite the understatement, but yes, I have it. And I'll guard it with my life. It's called faith. Duty. It doesn't have to add up to me as long as I serve. I'm part of a bigger plan. One that will be revealed in time. I told you already. I surrendered my memories for the sake of the mission. Shah's secrets must be protected. Duty demands it. Once I fulfill my mission, I can have my memories restored. That's not a luxury open to many people, us included. I have my faith to turn to instead. You should find something of your own.
Very well.
The air is heavy. Moisture drips down your forehead. Pain shoots through your fingers. The world swims as you close, then reopen your eyes. How long have you been waiting here? A moment, a night, a 10-day?
Chukil Gate Vlakith Mazathok! Can you feel it crawling through you? Tendrils squirming in your chest, gripping your heart, piercing your belly. Your bones popping, your flesh swelling. I can. I see it in you. I feel it in me. We are lost. I will be quick with my blade. First you, then the others. Then, myself.
Your minds intertwine. You sense a touch of uncertainty, a touch of disgust.
I cannot trust my own mind. So it seems I must trust yours. I will wait. But know this. I am watching. If the sickness does not pass come dawn, I will end us all. I came just in time. You are transforming. Yes, you have. I saved you before. And I'm here to save you again. Don't worry. You will not become a mind flayer. Not while I'm around. I'll protect you. We haven't much time, so listen closely. There is great potential within you. It comes from that parasite. Your instinct is to resist the power it gives, but you must accept it, nurture it. I will keep it from consuming you, but for the sake of both of us, you must learn to wield it. For the fate of Faerun, a fight we are losing. For now. You can change that, but only if you embrace your potential. I have to go. The enemy is closing in. I will be back. I promise.
On a side note, the appearance of my dream visitor, or the Guardian as it was called back in character creation, was modeled from my wife. She was actually behind me at that time, dictating precisely what she wanted to look like in the game. So watching that cutscene was somehow funny for me, cause I vividly recall her dictatorship, I mean her enthusiasm. Anyway, she tells me that my main looks like me as well, a non-Asian version though. Alright. The main quest of the game is to find a cure to our affliction, the parasites in our heads. And although the game gives us plenty of avenues to pursue that goal, spoiler alert, we only get to remove them at the end of the game. Now, given that fact, would you consider embracing your potential? If you are playing a goody two-shoes character, and you're role-playing it quite seriously, staying true to the choices that it would most likely make, I see the point. But, if like me, you're a seasoned gamer who puts practicality above all when facing decisions, this one is a no-brainer. Besides, you already have a tadpole in your head, which as I have said, will stay there until the end. So adding more, in exchange for power, won't hurt. And most importantly, and this is the one you really want to hear, there are no bad consequences in deciding to use Illithid powers. Unless you overdo it, which I will discuss later. Furthermore, in my case, to remind you again, this is tactician mode. And obviously anything that will make things easier for me is a welcome addition. To activate this new feature, you must consume a Mind Flare parasite specimen. But before you do that, bug alert. Both Gale and Star should be in your squad. And later, I'll explain why. Okay, here goes nothing.
This one is a true soul parasite. It can enhance you. You can absorb its potential. Open your mind to it. You already know how.
Your mind swells as it subsumes everything the tadpole has to offer. Everything it was and everything it was destined to be. Pure potential. Pure power.
Good. You have grown your power and improved your chances of survival.
Charmed, I'm sure.
I wonder what the next move is.
Never a dull moment.
As you saw, someone in my squad is hesitant on using Illithid powers. And here's the origin characters and their positions on the matter. Star and Gale are cool with it, while LZ, Will, Carla, and Shadow are unwilling to unleash their potentials. But don't worry, cause their convictions are not ironclad. They can be persuaded. Now, this brings us back to the bug that I mentioned earlier. If any of your companions' Illithid menus look like this, the first and central skill is still unlocked. It simply means you fucked up, cause if you think about it, they already have a tadpole in their heads, so this should be available right from the start, right? This bug, however, is caused by the persuasion dialogue. Star and Gale don't have such dialogues. So like what I did, just include them in your squad before the consumption cutscene. For the rest that needs convincing, they have to be in the party before you talk them into it. Anyway, persuading LZ though will be very difficult, cause, as you know, the Mind Flayers are the sworn enemy of her people. So let's start with her.
Wits and blades, always sharp. No time for dallying.
Shouldn't have wished to live in more interesting times.
Keeper, no good will come of devouring a gay worm, no matter what you might think. Mark my words, this power would be no blessing, but a curse. You might as well ask me to gouge out my eyes for the promise of sight, or slice off my tongue for the promise of taste. Consume all the gate tadpoles you wish. I'm not so craven. Perhaps you... No, that's absurd. When the tadpole has stretched to every pore and slithered through every vein, What am I to do then? It won't hear my screams. It won't care if I beg. I will be remade in its image. My faith in Vlaakith will guide me, and my own might will sustain me. I have no need of this depraved power. You might be right. The Githyanki have long studied Geich and used what we've learned. The Zaithisk itself was devised from such knowledge. The tadpole is perhaps not just a curse, but a weapon I can twist and mold to my advantage. Very well. I will swallow my disgust and avail myself of the parasite's powers.
Next is Will. And again, they have to be in the squad before you convince them.
Well met. I think that unknowable powers come with unknowable consequences. I can't say I'm not curious, but once you take an Illithid by the talon, there's no telling how deep into the abyss it might drag you. I'm more than a bit wary, I admit. Still, I am the frontier's avowed protector. New dangers require new skills to vanquish them. If the tadpole must be my curse, then let the powers it grants me be the Sword Coast's blessing. I will consume what I must to make it so.
Let's get on with it. This way.
All's well that ends. Not as bad as it could have.
Hey, soldier. You really did it, huh? Not worried about adding more Illithid into the mix? Well, what can I say? You look fine, smell fine, seem fine. And yet, you're more mind flayer than ever. Hope you don't expect me to follow your lead in this. Do they? I'm not sure either of us can say one way or the other. We don't know what the costs might be just yet. How do you do that? Always making sense when I least want you to. Fine. I'll keep an open mind, all right? I can promise that much. Now, are we done here?
What's next, I wonder?
Still breathing, despite everything.
It was bad enough having just one of those tadpoles forced upon us. I can scarcely believe you actually inflicted another on yourself. On one hand, they seem useful. But on the other hand, or perhaps tentacle before long, we know where they're coming from and what lies at the end of that path. I never expected ceremorphosis to be tempting. I think we should resist these powers. There's simply too many unknowns for us to risk it. Well, perhaps you have a point. Fine. Let's explore these powers then. I just hope we don't come to regret it.
On a side note, except for a certain true soul female drow, other potential non-origin companions that we will meet in the future are incapable of using Illithid powers. Simply because, to begin with, their brains are parasite-free. Alright, now that everyone is on board, let me explain these powers. This skill tree has 3 tiers or rings, and I will use the colors of item rarity, namely green for uncommons, blue or cyan for rares, and magenta for very rares, to easily distinguish them from one another. As a skill tree, obviously unlocking higher tier powers requires specific skills below it. And at the onset, the central skill, Illithid Persuasion, should already be unlocked, and again, if this is not, you got the bug. Mind you, this is my personal build, and the powers that I will highlight will resonate with my character builds and playstyle. Now, in the first ring, except for Force Tunnel, all of them will be viable to my squad. Let's begin with Psionic Overload. Though this may seem to be a double-edged sword, it will really benefit classes who can do multiple attacks in one turn, like fighters and thieves, LZ and Star respectively. The damage they can potentially inflict in a single turn definitely outweighs the punishment that they will receive. Next is Favorable Beginnings. This triggers once per long rest. In combat, the first enemy you attack would most likely hit, because of the bonus, but this isn't only limited to weapon attacks, cause some spells also call for attack rolls. And to name a few significant low-level ones, we have Eldritch Blast, Chromatic Orb, Scorching Ray, Guiding Bolt, and Inflict Wounds. So this goes well with any class. For your main though, or your face character, this would most likely get expended on your first dialogue that asks for an ability check. By the way, although detecting traps, or discovering things require ability checks, I think this only procs on actual creatures, so the bonus is safe. Anyhow, the key here though, is to have this skill on your entire squad. Besides, it's a precursor to one of the best Illithid powers. Now on Transfuse Health. If you select this on a barbarian or fighter, or any class with considerable HP, they can potentially fully heal someone, cause half of their HP is already the entire health pool of other classes. Besides, it's a stepping stone to other notable Illithid skills. And lastly, for the first ring is Concentrated Blast, which is conditional to begin with. But if you think of it, clerics like Shadow are always concentrating on something. And for high-level arcane spells, which my sorcerer doesn't have yet, almost all of them require concentration. So yes, this power goes well with spellcasters. Besides, it's another precursor to another notable skill. Now let's talk about the second ring. And the ones that I'm not gonna get are Stage Fright, Ability Drain, Charm, Displace, Repulsor, and Cull the Weak. Okay, let's start with Perilous Stakes. As opposed to what some idiots say that this is useless, it is. If you fucking cast this on your own team. Instead, use this as a debuff to your enemies. Yes, they will heal, but they'd be fucking dead even before they can attack, cause vulnerability to all damage, simply means double damage from all sources. By the way, this requires a spellcasting ability modifier to successfully apply, So obviously this is also for my spellcasters, my main, and shadow. Next is Luck of the Far Realms, which is a reaction that you can choose to trigger once per long rest. And it's basically a free critical hit, so it's a no-brainer. This is one of the best Illithid powers. Like the one before it, Favorable Beginnings, this goes well with any class, cause as I've enumerated earlier, there are a number of spells that rely on attack rolls. The third one is Shield of Thralls. And this one, like Perilous Stakes, require transfuse health to unlock. And I'm not really after its bonus HP, but rather the stun effect when it bursts, affecting only enemies in a 9-meter radius. Except for my main, I'm gonna have this on the rest of my party, cause they usually get into the thick of the fight. And lastly for the second ring is Psionic Backlash. This is a reaction, so whenever an enemy within a 9-meter radius, with low health, casts a spell, there's a possibility to kill them even before the spell is fully executed. Take note that the damage amplifies, depending on the level of the spell. Anyhow, like Shield of Thralls, this fits my 3 frontline guys. LZ, Shadow, and Star. By the way, the prerequisite of this is Concentrated Blast. Alright, before I talk about the third ring, FYI, your squad can get a permanent buff in Act 2, that converts all Illithid skills that are actions into bonus actions. The Awakened buff. And this makes your decision to embrace your potential more than worth it. Okay, now on the third ring. To unlock it, you need to open your mind to a special parasite at the end of Act 2, the Astral Touched Tadpole, which will evolve you, or any of your companions, into a half Illithid. And you will permanently look like this, like someone vomited motor oil on your face. The magic mirror can't remove it, by the way, although you can cover it up with a massive face tattoo. There aren't any really bad consequences for choosing to evolve into this. However, although their approval towards you will remain intact, your companions will sometimes regard you with disgust. Personally, I don't want to look like shit, so my Illithid build ends at the second ring. Another major spoiler. Before the final showdown of the game, you can even go further by deciding to fully evolve into a Mind Flayer, and that choice is really the one with dire consequences, specifically to your main's ending. Speaking of which, as a full Illithid, all powers will be unlocked, and some of them will even be upgraded to better versions. However, although I won't choose to evolve, I've highlighted a few skills that I consider OP. By the way, I don't have their actual in-game descriptions, cause obviously I don't have access to them yet. Cull the Weak is not a third ring power, it's just tier 2, but it's worth mentioning. If you have decided to focus your tadpoles into 1 or 2 characters, that amount determines the threshold of this auto-kill feature. Next is Freecast, which refreshes once every long rest. And it basically allows you to cast anything without expending anything. High-level spell slots or even limited actions, such as the Fighter's Action Surge. It's arguably the best Illithid power in the game, and goes well with any class. Now on Psionic Dominance, which similarly goes well with any class. Once per long rest, you can choose to nullify a spell targeted at you, exactly like Counterspell, so this is a no-brainer. And lastly for the third ring is Black Hole, which is one of the best crowd control skills in the game, because it applies the very powerful debuff, Slow, to enemies who fail an intelligence save. That said, the caster needs to have a spellcasting ability modifier. Thus, well suited for spellcasting classes. Again, I'm not gonna get these ones. They are just worth mentioning for those of you who may decide to evolve into half Illithids. Now, let's go back to my actual build, just a summary of what I've discussed so far. This is my usual squad, represented by the letters A to D. And on the left, I have corresponded that, to the specific powers that they're gonna get. Thus, my main is only gonna consume 5 parasites, while the rest will have 7 each. So I need a total of 26 tadpoles to complete my Illithid builds. And don't fret, cause there are plenty of parasites in the game, potentially more than 40, that is. Therefore, I will have a surplus at some point, and those will simply go to my other companions, Gale, Will, and Carla. On a final note, the downside of using tadpoles is that it's non-refundable. Yes, you can still respec your characters, but their Illithid powers remain status quo. Okay, now let's use up the 3 tadpoles that I have, and I will prioritize favorable beginnings on my frontliners.
Enough waiting. I crave blood.
My faith will guide me.
Careful, I bite.
Still breathing, despite everything.
Alright, stay tuned in for the next episode as I infiltrate the goblin camp. And that's all there is for now. Thanks for watching. Also, check out other videos from Sabbath Clan Philippines and don't forget to subscribe. See you on my next vid. Peace out, y'all.